Hello friends and Warhammer aficionados, Luke here. I've got a Warriors of Chaos versus Empire 2,500 point battle. Warriors of Chaos sporting the new rules and Empire sporting, well, all the cheese that Empire brings. I'm not playing in this game at all. It's my two buddies. I didn't have to, I was supposed to go with my wonderful chef of a wife and do a bunch of errands today, including going to some specialty spice store and getting fancy pepper. But I brokered a deal where I could watch my buddies play Warhammer in exchange for going to see a crappy chick flick called Safe Haven. And even though that's going to be awful, I think that because a Warhammer game lasts longer than a movie, I probably won out here. But we'll see how bad the movie is. Anyway, here are the spells that my Empire friend has. He has the level 4 Rock and Shadow. He's got the Pendulum. And then he's got 3 debuffs. 1 to Strength, 1 to Toughness, and then Miasma that can hit Weapon Skill, Ballistic Skill, Initiative, Movement, and a combination of those if you juice it up. Over here, my other buddy has Nurgle, which is pretty fantastic for Mark of Nurgle. He's got that kind of all over where he can. That's -1 to hit now. But in terms of spells, he's got Miasma Pestilence, which is a weapon skill reduction for guys in base to base with your unit that casts the spell. Then he's got Curse of the Leper. That's a toughness buff on yourself or a debuff on a unit, D3 toughness, either way. Then he has Rancid Visitations. That's a D6 Strength 5 magic missile, I think 18-inch range, and the recipient of the spell has to pass a toughness test after the damage is done, and then if you fail it, it happens again, and again, and again, and again. It's fantastic. So you have to pass a toughness test to get out of it. Or you could die. That's an option. And then he has Plague Wind, which is a vortex. You can juice it up like normal. It's toughness test. No armor saves, I'm sure. All this type of standard vortex, what you would expect. And then he's got the lore attribute where I believe it's if you do wounds. When you cast this spell, you get to roll a d6. If it's a 6, you get... I believe if it's a 6. I'm a little fuzzy on that. It didn't come up. But you get +1 wounds and +1 toughness. So that's pretty good for a caster. That's a fun lore. Here's what the battle looks like. It's the Anvil of All, are those two hills kind of smushed together there. Then he's got a Nehekaran Sphinx, a forest, and a magic circle. There's also a Weirding Well and a Scree Slope, but they don't come into play at all. And we end up with the scenario number 4. I can't remember the name right now, but it's the one where you deploy on a diagonal, and you're a total of 12 inches away from each other. So we'll see how that gets deployed. But it's also the one that means you have to be stuck in reserves. And look at how bad it was for Empire. Empire had to have the Hellblaster and the cannon and his horde of 50 halberdiers with his general in there. Those are all in reserves. That sucks. But here's what did make it on the board for him. He's got 3 demigryphs, just a musician, nothing else in the command group. He's got, it looks like in the neighborhood of 20 great swords. In there's a warrior priest giving him rerolls and a BSB in there. And they're stubborn to begin with, so that group ain't going anywhere. Then he's got a Hurricanum. Pistoliers, which are the fast cav with the multi-shots. That's always pretty great. Then he's got his level 4 caster in a little bunker of archers. He's got a master engineer at the top who is war machineless right now, but will attach himself when they come on as reserves. He's got a group of inner circle knights here, and then a steam tank. So we go over here to Chaos. Chaos, unfortunately, I don't have a picture of this, but Chaos got hurt by reserves as well. 2 groups of somewhere in the neighborhood of a dozen Chaos Warriors. One group has a BSB, one group has his level 4. Both of those are in reserves, so that kind of sucks. Otherwise, here's what he has on the board. He's got a group of dogs, a group of 5 Chaos Knights with the Lord in there. And then he's doing kind of a new trick with the rules. He's got 2 groups of Chosen. Chosen, when they come on the board, they get a roll on the Eye of the Gods chart. They get a roll with 3d6 and remove 1 of the dice. They can kind of pick. So they get to choose what boon the entire unit gets. +1 strength, yada yada, a bunch of different stuff. The War Altar also grants an extra die, drop it, or drop 1 of them to choose what you want on the list. So, because Chosen have that innately, they get to roll 4d6 and then drop 2 of them. Now, if you're not familiar, the goal here is to get 2 6s. To drop what you don't need, so you have 2 6s, and then that will turn your champion of the Chosen into a Demon Prince, which would be huge. Some big bruiser you didn't have to pay for, running around the battlefield. It'll be awesome. So that's what he's going for here. You might see some lists around recently getting touched on the internet where there's maybe even 3 groups of Chosen. Chosen are pretty good on their own, but the War Altar's doing that for them. That's the goal. The War Altar also has a bounce spell that if you get it off, it lets characters within a certain range roll in the Eye of the Gods chart again, with that roll 3 drop the lowest. So that's what he's going for. Then down his flank he has another group of dogs, and then we're proxying Hellstriders, or proxying Hexwraiths as Hellstriders. I should point out that the two groups of Chosen, we're using... My buddy doesn't play with anything that's not painted and assembled, and he's working on them, but we've got Black Orcs as one group of Chosen, and then Savage Orcs as another, and even the War Altar is a damn screaming bell. He's got to get to work. During the rolls, he did not get any boxcars, so no Demon Princes, unfortunately. I really want to see that happen, especially when it's not him fighting me. But one group got +1 strength, one got +1 toughness. That's pretty great, too. Here's what the battle line looks like before anyone gets started, and then we move to Vanguard movements. Empire rolls and gets to Vanguard first, so they move their Pistoliers in the middle, which means that Vanguard movements can't be within 12 of each other, so that pushes or kind of minimizes where these Vanguard movements can go. Actually, ignore the arrow by the dogs. The dogs don't have Vanguard movement, and he doesn't move his Hexwraiths very much. A little bit, but not very much. So here's a view of the lines, and the battle gets started. Empire gets turn 1, and you can see here his Inner Circle Knights just kind of move up to have a nice wide charge arc to threaten those Hellstriders if they try to come in. And then his Pistoliers do their super movement right behind the Chosen so that they can shoot them in the next phase. His caster tries the Riddle of the Sphinx. It's an initiative test. He fails, and he fails the ward saves. He takes a wound. And then reserves start coming on. He's got his cannon, his Hellblaster come on, and the Master Engineer moves up to attach itself to the Hellblaster. And his Horde of Halberdiers come on. I think he did this wrong in hindsight, because even though they're detachments, like he put the group down and put the detachments 3 inches in front, I would say that the detachments probably also have to touch the back line, but he placed them in front as if they were just deployed that way. Maybe he's right. It's one of those fringe cases it probably isn't a rule written up for. During Magic, it's 7 dice to 5. First spell goes out, and it debuffs the Chosen movement by 2. So that's what that little skull token is there. They're 2 movement down. And then with the other spell, the Withering goes off on this Black Orc group of Chosen, lowering their toughness by 3. And that's what the Chaos opponent was saving his Dispel dice for, but you got to remember, he doesn't have a level 4 on the board right now, so he's at a severe disadvantage. It's held in reserves. So now these guys get their toughness reduced by D3, it ends up being 3, and they're just going to get shot to hell by those Pistoliers, is the idea. So during shooting, these archers that just came on, they take a long shot and peg one of the dogs, and the Pistoliers open up and end up getting 6 hits on the Chosen, which is a bad thing. It's only 2s to wound because they're so toughness debuffed, but my Empire buddy rolls 3 1s. So only 3 wounds come through, and he was able to armor save only 1 of them. So 2 Chosen die from that. The long archers take a shot, kill another Chosen, and the cannon from the steam tank falls, a little short of where he wanted. Doesn't go very far down the lines of the Savage Orc group of Chosen. I'm doing air quotes here, I know you can't see that, and only ends up taking out 1 of the Chosen down there. So we're down 4 total Chosen right now, and it's going pretty good for Empire. This is just a picture of the end of turn. You can see Chaos is going to try to get there as fast as they can. Alright, Chaos turn 1. Guys just move up a little bit here. The dogs kind of come over to more toward the middle. That arrow is blue, and it should be red. Sorry. Bad inconsistency. The dogs move up in the middle there between the forests so that they can kind of block it a bit, maybe march block. The Chosen move away from the Pistoliers a little bit. They're not in their charge arc, so don't mess with them right there. And the Knights move up, but the Knights don't go up super far. They have a lot more movement, but they all just kind of stay a little closer together. Over here, the Hexwraiths come over behind the Pistoliers. You can see that dotted line. The Hexwraiths really were close. What they tried to do was use their super movement and march to be like kind of railroading the steam tank such that it couldn't pivot. Because the way it moves is you have to pivot it and then move the direction, but you can't come within an inch of someone. You can't bump into them or anything like that. So he had them so the steam tank was going to have to roll forward, but they just couldn't get out of the charge arc of those Inner Circle Knights. And the Hellstriders are not going to stand up to a flank charge by those dudes. So he decided, he tried for it. He wanted to get in the back lines to get those war machines. It almost worked out for him. So close, but didn't work. So he pulls him more toward the middle, deal with the Pistoliers. Then as reinforcements come on, you can see he puts one group of the Warriors with his level 4 caster right next to the Pistoliers at the top, so he can cast some spells on them. And then the other one comes to shore up the bottom line here by his Chariot. You know, I think I forgot to mention that. He has a Chariot. Sorry about that. So, during Magic, it's 8 dice to 7. First, he tries to cast Rancid Visitations on the Pistoliers, and he tries on 2 dice, which is probably not a good idea, and he fails to cast. So now his caster can't cast anymore, and those Pistoliers are going to be unchecked. That sucks. He is able to use some of his dice to dispel the Withering on the Chosen, so their toughness is juiced back up. And he goes with the last few dice to cast the Bounce Spell from the War Shrine, but you know, he's only got a few left, and the Empire player hasn't used any, so Empire dispels it just fine. Empire turn 2. The Steam Tank generates 4 points off screen, and the Pistoliers fail to march, but who cares? You can see from this crappy arrow I tried to draw, the Pistoliers just basically turn right around, and now they're going to get a whole bunch of shooting on those Hellstriders. The Steam Tank moves up a bit. Everyone else just kind of moves forward, not too much. The Demigryphs make a swift reform and kind of shimmy. He's turtling up here. You know, he's pulled his caster group back a bit, and that's fine. Now he has his War Machines. Now he's got some formidable lines. He doesn't have to go anywhere. Chaos has to come to him, so he's just going to sit back and shoot, shoot, shoot. During Magic, it's 10 dice to 6. First, he throws out Melkoths, targeting movement on the Sorcerer's unit. And the Chaos player lets it go. It ends up, unfortunately, being -3 movement. I know he was hoping for 1, but he lets it go because there's worse stuff coming. Next, Enfeebling Foe, which is the strength debuff on the Knights. The Chaos player lets this one go as well, because basically it's not going to matter if he's strength debuffed right now. He can dispel it because it's Remains Plague. He can dispel it next turn if he's going to get him into combat. He lets that go. He's basically saving his dice because he doesn't have a ton. And unfortunately, it doesn't work out for him because with the last 4 dice, 3 of them turn up being 6s, casting the Withering on the Chosen again. It dispels him by 2 toughness, which means, you know, it's irresistible. He can't use his dispel dice at all. And during the magical backlash from miscasting, 2 archers die in the bunker, and another wound goes on the caster. So with that and the Sphinx wound, his caster only has 1 left, which is not bad. During shooting, the Pistoliers unload. Remember, they've got multi-shots, and I think their champion has like a super repeater super gun, and they just blow 4 of the Hellstriders away. With the Marcus Slanesh, I don't think they had to take a panic test. I'm pretty sure that's what that means. But regardless, they didn't panic for whatever reason, but now they only have 1 left. Archers over here take a long shot at the dogs and miss, and the dogs are just close enough and the only thing in range, so the Hellblaster opens up and super overkills the dogs. Over here, the archers shoot, and one group misses and one group kills 2 dogs, which panics them, and they run a little bit, not too far, but that's where they are. And the cannon takes aim at the knights, fires, and blows up. I don't think I've ever had the cannon blow itself up on turn 1, well, especially when there's not a second cannon to back it up, but I feel pretty happy for Chaos right now. And here's a picture of the end of turn. Pretty much what you'd expect. Alright, Chaos turn 2. The lone Hellstrider makes a charge on the Pistoliers. There's not a lot else he can do, he feels. Charges can get shot down and stand and shoot. We had a question about this, if anyone knows. I couldn't find a decisive answer online. If you have multi-shots, can you use multi-shots on a stand and shoot? Emotionally, it kind of feels like you can only get 1 off. And these guys are quick to fire, so they can shoot even if he's within kind of that minimum range. But we didn't know if they could get, you know, all their shots off. Regardless, they killed them in 1 barrage each, so it's just kind of a more question I'd like an answer to if anyone knows. The Knights charge the Greatswords here, and they make it in, but with these tight quarters, because the Sphinx is there is impassable, and these dudes are here, he's connected them, but it's going to have to mean that the Greatswords are going to have to close the door to him. During Magic, it's 8 dice to 6. First off, he tries with the Bound spell with 2 dice on the Shrine, and that will, you know, ideally let 3 characters or champions nearby roll in the Eye of the Gods chart, and he rolls double 1s, so that doesn't go off. Now he's even on dice. He tries to dispel Enfeebling Foe with his Lord, but doesn't get it. Rolls really poorly, and isn't able to dispel it. But with the last few dice he has, he throws them at Dispelling Withering on the Knights and is able to dispel that. So now the Knights aren't debuffed and the Chosen are still Toughness debuffed. Alright, here's the fight. First off, the Chaos Champion has to issue a challenge and does. His Empire BSB accepts. Before that, the Lord goes first, takes a couple of swings at the Warrior Priest on the corner. And the Lord's on the top corner there. Only scores 1 wound. I got to tell you, if I don't mention it enough, you just wouldn't believe. It's one of those games you would not believe how bad this Chaos player rolls for everything. I mean, everything is never above a 2 or a 3. Like in this, his guy's got 5 attacks. He hits once and wounds once. It's unbelievable. I mean, that's normal and can happen from time to time, but that's this entire battle. It was really tough for him. But anyway, scores a wound on the Warrior Priest. In the challenge, the champion whiffs completely, and the BSB wounds with all 3 attacks, the Chaos player is able to save 2, but his champion dies. So no rolling on the Eye of the Gods. He loses the challenge. His rank and file go and kill some number of them. I couldn't remember. He was able to direct a few attacks at the Warrior Priest that the Lord wasn't able to kill, so they did kill him, which is actually pretty big, because now that the Warrior Priest isn't there and dies before the initiative step of the Greatswords, they're not going to get rerolls. That's pretty good. But basically, when it's all said and done, all the Knights get wiped out by the Greatswords, which, you know what, they're only Strength 5, and that's 2 removed from a 1-up armor save. That's another example of him rolling like complete ass. It was just terrible. He should not have failed those. He scored 4 wounds. Empire scored 4 wounds, and he failed 4, 3-up armor saves? So he just failed them, and it was awful. So the Lord's sitting there on his own. He's going to have to challenge next time, but it's just the Lord. Chaos ends up losing by 2, and the Lord sticks. And here's another end of the turn shot. So Empire turn 3, the Demigryphs declare a charge on the Chariot, and they make it in. The 2 Chaff detachments move up. One gets out of the way, and one moves up to try to block a flank charge from those Chosen on the Demigryph, should they not break the Chariot. And then the Halberdiers move up, and everyone else pretty much kind of stays the same. I don't remember what the Steam Tank did here, but it may have misfired. It misfired at least once or twice. The Inner Circle Knights move around the magic circle there in the middle, and now they're kind of threatening the Sorcerer's group, who's been movement debuffed for a while. During Magic, it is 6 dice to 3. First, Melkoth's targeting movement on the Sorcerer again gets cast, and he lets it go. It's just he's not going to be able to get everything. And they only get their movement debuffed by 1 at this point, but again, they're slowed. Next, Enfeebling Foe gets cast, but Chaos was able to dispel it this time with 3 die. So no Enfeebling, and that was going to be on the Lord, who's the only remaining Knight. The Hurricanum, with a few dice left, tries for its Bound spell and targets over... I took this picture. He changed his mind at the last. He decided to put it on the War Shrine, but it drifts off. Pistoliers come in from behind here and kill 3 of the Chosen, and fortunately they are close enough that it really doesn't matter. The Hellblaster opens up and kills all the remaining Chosen. Just rolls very high and destroys them. Here, the archers just kind of take a couple of shots and miss. In close combat here, the Chariot scores 1 wound first, and the Demigryphs score 2, but even losing combat, Chaos sticks here. In the combat with the Lord, it's a challenge, because Chaos has to challenge, and he rolls really poorly again. He gets to go first, he doesn't have any rerolls, and he just rolls like complete crap, fails to wound the BSB, and the BSB fails to wound him. However, because of the way the combat goes with combat resolution, he loses and breaks and runs away. And this is basically where the Chaos player decided to forfeit. He's like, you know what, it's just gone so bad. He doesn't really have much left. He hasn't really done much. He's getting shot to hell. But we kind of played it out a little more and made him. So this was kind of a preemptive, what is it, bottom of turn 3 shot, or I guess this is technically the end of the top of the turn 3. And we go a little more just to see what it's going to be like, but it is still a pretty solid whooping for Chaos. So Chaos turn 3, the Warriors, who do have debuff movement, they charge. The Pistoliers, who flee, they bounce through the Greatswords, and they're fine. The Lord ends up rallying, so he will be turned around. The Warriors over here charge into the Demigryphs, and that's a pretty easy charge for them, so they can help out in the combat. The Chosen, the one remaining group of Chosen, this is one of the +1 strength, charge the Detachment Chaff just to get him out of the way, and then in a fairly smart move, the War Shrine moves up just to try to do its best to block a flank charge from the Greatswords, and then the Caster group moves up as well, but their movement debuffed a little bit, so they really can't get in too much and help. Magic is pretty much minimal. Well, what basically happens is we kind of went back and forth on seeing what we would do. We were kind of playing cooperatively to see if he had a chance at winning. We basically realized the only thing he can really do to win here, with the exception of getting very lucky, is just to try to turtle, and he didn't want to do that. So he dispelled what he could of what was remaining in play, and then tried to throw all 6 dice at casting the Eye of the Gods bound spell, but he didn't get Irresistible Force, and it was dispelled with the Dispel Scroll. So nothing happened in Magic, unfortunately. There's no shooting to speak of. And a close combat, the Charioteers score 2 wounds on the Demis. I think they scored 1, and the Chaos Warriors scored another. 2 Chaos Warriors died, and the Demigryphs lost combat, and they were on a 5 re-rollable because the BSB was nearby, and they stuck around. Unfortunately for Chaos, they did stick. That would have been kind of, maybe not game-changing, but pretty big if they could have got those Demigryphs out of there. Now they're probably going to be stuck in combat a little more and slogging it out, because any more wounds are going to remove the rank bonus. I guess you have to have 2 there, but if you score 2 more wounds, you're not going to have a rank bonus here. And at this point, it was going into the next turn of the Empire, and everyone had already basically conceded and said that Empire won pretty well. It kind of seems like a fast game going through it now, but with the combination of how bad all the dice rolling were, how effective his chaff was, and how so little of Empire had gotten into play, it was pretty much just over. Like, we didn't really see much of a win condition here for Chaos. The Inner Circle Knights were going to come around. As you can see there, the Steam Tank was like unchallenged. Didn't even need to get into close combat, but could. His Lord had rallied, but now his Lord was within range of the Hellblaster Volley Gun, which isn't, expected to kill him, but is going to be a bit of a problem. And he's staring down the Great Swords there and the 50 Halberdiers. It was just, he's got just a couple groups of warriors. So that was basically it. This is the end of the game. I know it was a short battle report, but that was pretty much what we had. I think it was a good list that the Chaos player took. I think he made some mistakes in deployment, but you know what? It's going to be an uphill battle for you if you've got these things against you. If you've got a shooting and turtling Empire army, it's going to be tough with an MSU-style. If you don't have a lot more chariots and you don't have a lot of skull crushers and things that are getting up there really fast, you're just going to get shot up. And being held in deployment, held in reserves was bad for them. And it really didn't affect Empire that much because A, they wanted a turtle, and B, they just lost out on 1 shooting phase. Not a big problem for them. Actually, I don't even know if they did lose out on 1 shooting phase. I can't remember. But anyway, it ended up being a pretty big massacre, and it was just going to get worse and worse for Chaos. So I encouraged my buddy to play this list again, and I told him if we do get a chance to play this next week, I'll play my Vampire Counts list, because this was similar to what he changed the list a bit, but when he played my Orcs and Goblins, I had shooting as well, and just did the same thing to him. So I said, we'll play Vampires, where we both got to get in combat to win, and it'll ideally be less of a uphill battle for you. In fact, I play really poorly with my Vampires, so I'm sure he'll score a win there. But that's it. Short battle. Pretty painful for Chaos, but it was kind of fun to see some of the new stuff. And I will continue to push my buddy to get all this stuff painted and assembled so we can actually see what the new models are. And it doesn't look like Empires and green skins over and over. Thanks for watching, guys.